Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is Dr. Jared Bergman, and I am with Hedron Life Source, and I am here today with a very special guest. My guest is Dr. J. Heuvel, and he is a doctor that holds multiple doctorates in integrative medicine, humanitarian services, and traditional naturopathy. And he is a board certified orthomolecular and integrative medicine, as well as holistic health. A recent recipient of the Order of Excellence in Integrative Medicine from the World Organization of Natural Medicine. Dr. Huville is a recognized leader in his field, and he has authored numerous white papers and co-authored white papers as well. He's a keynote speaker nationally and internationally. Please help me in welcoming Dr. J. Huville.
Hi.
Hi, Dr. J.
Welcome.
Thank you for
Good to meet you.
joining us.
Here.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm a lot. Well, yeah, looking forward to this.
All right.
So yeah, I got one of those really long names, right? It's Dutch. It's Vanden Heuvel, but we pronounce it Vanden Heuvel. And so, I wish I could change it to Smith, but so thank you. Looking forward to this talk. I've been waiting to do this for quite a while. So
Great. Great. Should we dive
you
right in?
Yeah, let's
Awesome.
go.
Awesome. Okay. So, the harmful effects of EMF. What would you say EMF is exactly, in your opinion?
hmm Yeah, there's a lot of different definitions of EMF, but electromagnetic frequency is what we really are calling this, right? And what is that? It is exactly as it says. It's a frequency. However, not naturally occurring, as these are man-made frequencies that do not occur in nature, and that's the idea of what we're talking about today. But just to parlay into our discussion, 96% of the universe you cannot see. You can only see about 4% of it. Yet, when you look around, you think you see that much more than what's really there. But 96% of the universe you cannot see. That doesn't mean it's empty space. It's usually filled with vibrations and frequencies. And so, what we're going to talk about today is something that you can't visually see, but we're all starting to feel the effects from. So, it's a man made frequency. What would your addition be to that?
Yeah, definitely, man-made frequency. So transitional type frequency, a one-way frequency that's actually coming into our bodies, and we're more used to like a longitudinal frequency. Um, and how is that disrupting us? It doesn't coalesce. We don't have coherence with those man-made aspects of that. We definitely, like you were saying, the unseen aspects, we react to ions. So we have the positive ions, the cosmic forces, and then the negative ions from the earth, right? And we need those negative ions, but when we're filling the earth, or absolutely surrounded by all of these positive charges, how do we recharge ourselves, right? Um, that's a big, that's definitely a big aspect of it. Um, and then
Mhm.
even the um, things that the National Institute of Health is or has studied, even say, using a cell phone, for instance, which is giving off those transitional waves all the time, even for an hour, can increase risk of cancer by like 500%. And then also the World Health Organization classifies it as a class B carcinogen, the cell phone radiation itself. And that's that transitional wave, that positive ion. Now we do need some positive ions because of the sun. We turn that into vitamin D for ourselves. But of course, when the earth is full of that positive charge, that inhibits our ability to actually transition the good light into vitamin D. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, definitely a big invisible aspect that just because we can't see it doesn't mean that it's not there, right?
Exactly. And like you mentioned, sunlight, right, which is natural.
Hmm.
And we've got different types of ultraviolet radiations that come at us. Luckily, we have a stratosphere to filter some of that out, or we'd all die walking outside. But that's a natural type of radiation. Gamma rays, are another example of naturally occurring radiations in the world. Things that we may know that are more man-made are like X-rays, right? Extremely low frequencies or ELF signals, is what they use for submarine communications, things like that. These are different. But wireless, this whole wireless type of energy that's coming at you, this electromagnetic frequencies, which we can't see, we can't really feel, right? Um, it's really scary what's happening because just to preface that, if you look at 10 years ago, and this is according to Dr. Johansson, he's a PhD in this type of EMF research, and he said that 10 years ago, EMFs were 1 quintillion times less than they are today. And
Wow.
that's, basically one with 18 zeros. So just in 10 years, the amount of not natural or this man-made frequencies that are bombarding us every day has increased 1 quintillion times in 10 years. So, like you just said, it's now being classified as a carcinogen, meaning it is known to cause cancer, which has been equated to cigarette smoking. So, the wireless industry knows that, just like the tobacco industry did, and they all hide it. And so the reason we're talking to you today, coming to you from this company, Hedron, is to basically help you understand the dangers that you cannot see and what you could do to protect yourself and your family. So thanks for that.
You bet. Um, so what are the common sources, right? A lot of people don't realize that. I mean, most people realize that the cell phones are involved, the Wi-Fi routers, again, microwave ovens, power lines, all of those transmitting type of devices out there. But most people don't realize that even their appliances now, especially the newer appliances, they're getting hit because it's constantly communicating, constantly pulling data, and many of the apps on the phones now are constantly pulling data, so they're constantly working, right? And this is always off-putting the electromagnetic radiation to people. Even the cordless phones, I know before we had talked, and you rec or mentioned the cordless phones and how horrible those were, and even hair dryers, those things are terrible. Um, so anything
Yeah,
to
it goes on and on,
oh
right?
yeah,
It just doesn't
yeah,
stop. Any smart device. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I'm here in Florida, and then yesterday, not to take up time, but yesterday, the entire internet went out. And today, the same thing's happening nationally all over the nation. Airports are shut down today because of Microsoft crashing and somebody hacked into it. And that's just an internet thing.
hmm,
But what does that equate to? Well, not only could I not do my job yesterday, I do a lot of Zoom, telehealth. I couldn't communicate via email. I couldn't do pass on information, data. The microwave doesn't work, the refrigerator doesn't work, the stove doesn't work. It's
sure,
amazing how many things in your life are connected. And like you said, they're pinging 24/7, 365. They're constantly saying, where am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Where am I? What am I doing? It never turns off. And that's what people don't understand. The phone is not just the danger, right? And that's what a lot of people equate EMFs to, is too close to the head. And yes, studies show that it's nasty. I could talk about dental and amalgams and parotid glands all day long. It's nasty. I don't even touch these things to my head. But it's everything else in the home, as you just mentioned. The whole house is smart, which makes us dumb. We're constantly being bombed. Everywhere you go in your house, you go to a restaurant, you jump into your car. People are sitting on batteries now, driving cars made of batteries. They're getting pinged the whole time and they're sitting right on top of it. People don't stop and think about what's happening. And to me, one of the biggest problems we have is what this is doing to the inside of us, to our fragile DNA. What makes us human, what makes us who we are, is that DNA can be frazzled and become disruptive. And everybody knows what happens when your body starts making bad copies of yourself. You get the big C, right?
Right,
It's
right.
not good. So it is a carcinogen, and that's one thing that I'm glad that we're talking about on this podcast so that people understand this is a danger. Don't listen to the government when it says don't worry. You should worry.
Mhm.
You should, because the studies are coming out, study after study after study, all saying the same thing. Yes, it's disrupting our DNA. That's the core of who we are. So we can't get along without it. As I mentioned, the whole world shut down yesterday just with an internet outage. Imagine if that happened internationally. Everything stops. Even your
Mhm.
house can't think because you disrupted that. So it just goes to show you how everything's tied in and everything's hitting you, and you need to do something to protect yourself other than just, walking outside thinking you can get fresh air. You're being bombed there too. No matter where you go on this planet, you're being hit. Pretty
Definitely.
scary stuff,
Right. I
because you
mean,
can't see. Mhm.
no, no, and it is absolutely everywhere, and it is interesting as far as the 5G the spectrum, that wave spectrum that it's in, it's virtually unprotected. So technically, I'm not really surprised that people can get in and hack because they can insert code anywhere within that spectrum.
Mhm.
It is largely unprotected. And
Mhm.
you had
Or
mentioned
unstudied.
right,
Yeah.
and you had mentioned about keeping your phone away and not talking on it. What would you consider is a safe distance when you're talking on a phone?
Boy, that's a tough one. Because if you look at the studies, that are out there about distances,
Hmm.
uh, there is no safe distance.
Right.
I mean, unless you could put that thing, 6 feet away from your body. This is one time where the 6 foot rule actually probably makes a little bit of sense. But
Sure.
most people, have that luxury because even at 6 feet, you have a very small amount of radiation that's still making its way towards you. So, that's just a cell phone. I think we could talk about that for an
Hmm.
hour.
Hmm.
I'm more concerned with, these cell towers, and they're just everywhere. They want to put them on top of schools, and, it is crazy the interconnection is, 1995, we had about 900 cell towers. In the year 2024, we have almost 600,000. So we've gone from less than 1,000 to 600,000, in just that short period of time. And what's that doing? That's covering everything.
Right.
You can't get away from it. Even if you take your phone and hand it 6 feet away, you're still getting radiation coming in, trying to find that phone and the phone trying to talk to the tower. That's just cell phones.
Hmm.
We're not
Yeah.
even talking about it's talking to your car and your refrigerator and your laptop and the earbuds, the wireless earbuds. Today I heard that the company that makes those wireless earbuds, I won't mention names, have now found that they can listen to what you're listening to right through your wireless earbuds. So it's crazy. Are those wireless earbuds really helpful? Should we be sticking those in our ears, emitting electromagnetic signals? No, we're going to find out all these things are hazardous and we need to be protected. That's the whole purpose. You can't get away from it. Even if I say hold your phone 3 feet away, it doesn't matter. What about the rest of the house? What about the outside? What about your car? What about your office? What about your school? It's out of
Right.
control.
And I think that's important for people to understand, to paint that picture, because we are surrounded all the time. And yeah, that we focus on the phone a lot because everybody has one, but yeah, we're surrounded all the time. I heard that because you were talking about the earbuds, I heard that there's a chip and some sort of operating chip in most of the phones that even if the phone is off, it's still listening.
Correct. Yeah. Your
So
phone can be off and it can still hear you.
yeah, that's incredible.
I'll tell you what, just like last night, you could be watching maybe a political show, right? And you hear
Hmm.
somebody's name, and I'm like, gee, I wonder how old Lee Greenwood is. He was singing some patriotic song, right? I went into my phone, I hit search, I typed in Lee, and before I even finished or made a space, his face came up on my phone with his
Oh, wow.
age, and that's exactly what I was looking for. And I'm like, how did the phone know what I was looking for?
Right.
So, are these things ever turned off? Is the point?
Hmm.
No,
Right.
everything. Even these webcams that we're looking at through our computers, they can be on 24/7. So we need to understand that the EMFs are everywhere and they're 24/7, 365. That's the one thing we want to get through. And the medical studies that have come out lately, and as a doctor, I want to throw that in. 3% of all people have serious problems from this, 30% have moderate problems, and 100% of everyone in the United States of America has some type of symptom right now related to Wi-Fi. Yeah, I know that blows your mind, right? But it's
Right.
been proven. Things like fatigue, depression, brain fog, can't sleep, edgy, my eyes hurt, my brain speeds up, it doesn't shut off. I bet you if you walked around and talked to anyone, they'd probably say yes to a lot of those things and they don't realize where it's coming from.
Right.
And I'm telling you, it's happening. I've been, doing natural health for 35 years. I've been in medicine for 45 years. So I kind of know what I'm talking about. I've seen over 25,000 people in my practice. So I can say this. The amount of fatigue, depression, can't sleep, I can't even put a number to it. It's just exponential when it comes to people coming in my office with complaints. I never had that 10 years ago. Lloyd's of London, the biggest insurer on planet Earth, will not insure anyone against EMF devices or damages. Think about that. You try to make a claim that you got brain cancer from a cell phone, insurance companies won't cover it. So, what does that tell you? That they won't even insure you against what we're talking about. It tells you that it's a very, very serious health threat.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And even from the I set up a little timeline as far as like the early 20th century and the 1960s, some of the symptoms that were recorded at the time. And even if you look at the Invisible Rainbow book, which is a great book by Arthur Thurstenberg, and that goes back even further to the telegraph lines. So when you're disrupting the natural energetic flow of the earth, it disrupts us because we're part of that earth, right? So yeah, it starts off early on with the chronic headaches and the chronic fatigue, and then it goes into something a little bit more where they're looking at introducing the microwave, and then they're doing studies on cancers for that, and then it goes on to the sleep disturbances, and then even the electromagnetic hypersensitivity, and then it continues, it extrapolates, it goes from those tier one type symptoms into tier two type symptoms, which are much more serious, like even into like skin rashes, but like you were saying, into the cancer or the aspect, and then to the neurodegenerative aspect of potentially leading into depression type symptoms as well. Uh, but yeah, the to highlight what you were saying about how exponential uh, this is, or how ubiquitous, like the cell towers, like in 1985, we had 930 cell towers, and now in 2020 it was around that 400,000 mark.
600,000, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
nuts.
now, yeah, and then now today 600,000. That's crazy.
Yeah, and did you know that like a 5G is so much different than 2G, 3G, 4G. 5G needs a station every 500 feet
Mhm.
to work. I mean, every 500 feet there has to be a relay.
Yeah.
Well, there's nobody that's going to get away from that. The whole planet is being coated in this. Satellites, they're even using chemtrails with aluminum in the atmosphere to make the 5G work faster, not just
Wow.
control the weather. It's crazy, and they admit
Interesting.
it. Then you got the FCC saying, well, don't worry, there's nothing you should worry. But there hasn't been one safety standard done on these cell phones and EMF since 1996.
Yeah, aren't we
Yet there are
looking at
25 different, yeah, but
aren't
there's
we
25 different papers that I've found that cell phones are deadly. But the FCC hasn't done their own safety study since 1996. What kind of network did we have back then? So
right.
this is sad. This is sad that nobody is talking about this. This should be front page news. There should be regulations happening. It's out of control. They're looking the other way. They don't care that the cancer rates are going through the roof. It's a frequency war, and I'll go on record and say that
Yeah.
we are
Okay.
in a frequency war.
Well said. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, the 5G compared to even 4G, it's starting off at like 30 megahertz, I believe, and then it goes up to 300 gigahertz. And with 4G, it was something like 6 or less megahertz is what the
Yeah.
or gigahertz is what our operation systems were. So that's a huge jump. And that type of power is it it literally can give people symptoms like you would get in a concussion because of the
Right.
strength of that power.
Right. And another thing, and we don't have a slide to visualize this, but try to conceptualize this in your mind. When you're talking about energy, and all of this 96% of frequencies and things that we can't see and good vibrations, right? They all follow the natural law and order of things. So energy, when it's coming at you, even solar radiation has more of a rounded type of wave, like a rolling hill or a roller coaster. And if you look at everything in nature, there's bends and there's circles and there's curves. Very few things are jagged except for mountains, but you get the idea that everything's kind of rounded, circular, flowing, right?
Hmm.
But when you look at man-made frequencies, they're not like that at all. They're very jagged, they're very tight, they look like a seismograph. So when that's hitting your body versus something that's used to like a rolling hill, the body's going to react very violently to that because it's tearing you apart. Very, very tiny tears, literally radiation tearing you apart.
Hmm.
Anybody knows you're exposed to too much radiation, you're going to die. You're exposed to moderate radiation. Long term, you're going to have side effects. You can lose your hair, you're going to your skin, you can get cancers and Kaposi sarcoma and all these different things that are going to happen to you and normally don't happen. What about low level radiation, which is what we're talking about, where you just can't get away from it, but it's always there? Well, common sense tells you that when these disruptive energies are coming at you, your body has a hard time defending that because it's never seen it before. That's why we have to find a way to deal with all this, and that's why we're here today. But, you can take that phone and be a foot away, you're still probably 25% exposed. It just doesn't go away. What are you going to do? Put it on the other side of the room? What about the radio alarm clock in your bedroom, your appliances, your microwave? You can't get away from it.
Hmm.
So, I really just want to get that point across that people understand what's coming at them, what it's doing, and what you need to do to stop it.
Yeah.
That's
So
where we're at.
yeah, definitely the ubiquity of it is a huge factor. But then how is that changing our environment? So that's when we get into gene expression, epigenetics, things like that. And maybe some people don't know what epigenetics actually is. Can you clarify that a bit for people?
Oh, thanks. I wasn't expecting that, but that's a great question. A lot of times we're told, and that things can be genetic, right? You're told, well, if cancer runs in your family, you're doomed. If heart disease runs in your family, it means you're going to have it. That's not true. To say you have a genetic predisposition is accurate, but what we need to understand is that genes, the gene itself, which may carry something that could cause an illness, is just like a loaded gun, but it can't go off unless you pull the trigger. And what pulls the trigger of a loaded gun, right, is something we call epigenetics. Epi means above. So epigenetics above your genes is something that is actually pulling the trigger for the gene to express itself. So I just want to recap that. If you've got a gene in your body that says you might get cancer because everybody in your family did, it doesn't mean you're going to. However, it's a loaded gun. Something has to pull that trigger. Epigenetics is the trigger. Now, what makes epigenetics pull the trigger? Your lifestyle, the environment, and stress. So if you drink and smoke, you're going to pull the trigger. If you're under constant stress, all you are is a negative person, you're going to pull the trigger. If you're living in a bad environment, toxic people, toxic everything, you're pulling the trigger. And, doctors sometimes have argued with me on that level and said, no, 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 it's still genetic. I said, no, no, no. You could take two identical twins, identical, and one of them can grow up healthy and the other one can have multiple sclerosis. Don't tell me that's genetic. And then they go, yeah, you're right. I didn't think of that. Of course you didn't. Epigenetic is what makes the gene express itself. So, is an EMF an epigenetic influencer? Yes. Is it a trigger? Yes. Can it pull the trigger on your gun? Yes. That's why we're saying it's a class 2 carcinogen. It's similar to cigarette smoking. There was a great study I found because I was looking at studies before I got on here. I'm a medical guy. I research. I have 3 PhDs. I didn't get there by accident. I do a lot of research, so I don't just spout things off and people have to Google while I'm talking.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2018, the Journal of American Medical Association, they showed a study that revealed that blocking exposure to EMFs, so this is 2018 now, before 5G, significantly reduced symptoms in 90% of all people with autoimmune disorder. Uh, that blows your mind.
Right.
90% of anyone with that's systemic lupus, that's multiple sclerosis, Sjogren's, celiac, I don't care, pick one, rheumatoid arthritis. 90% had a reduction in their symptoms when they were able to shield themselves from these bad frequencies. And that was 2018. So I'm like, what's happening with 5G, which, like you just said, has exponentially gone up from a 4G? We're running into trouble here. And cancer, autoimmune, all these things I mentioned are just going to go and skyrocket. So I hope, if you're listening to this podcast, that you share it with everyone you know and love, because you need to get the word out. You can't block everything, but you can change the frequencies, and that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
mean, yeah, well, that's great. I mean, that
Sorry,
you,
Jared, I get a little.
no, no, that's perfect. That's a great explanation. It puts it in
Thank you.
perspective for sure.
Right, right,
It's just there is, with all of the crossover radio waves and everything else, it's 50 times what 5G is usually. At any one time, we're getting exposed, especially in a urban setting. Uh,
right.
but but definitely when you're talking about the epigenetics, the influence of the environment, yeah, 5G or any EMF is part of our environment now. So yeah, it's definitely going to affect the DNA. And how I think of it is these these histones, histones are proteins that the DNA, we see those pictures of the ladder that has the nice spiral. Well, that's not what DNA actually looks like. I mean, it's tightly wound around these histones. And
Right.
then these methyl groups, which are so important for our genes, are inserted at certain points. And when the transitional waves or those man-made waves come in, like you were saying, it essentially frays that, or it starts to unravel that. And that then can either turn on genes that we don't want turned on, or turn off genes that we don't want turned off. And yeah, it spirals out of control, literally.
We're a long way from understanding all the potential dangers and damage of what's happening here. We're a long way from that. But we do know so far that this is something that is not being addressed in the general public or in the medical community like it should. And you know why? Because they don't have a lab test for it and they don't have a drug for it. So your medical doctors aren't going to be testing you for EMF exposure, and they might even laugh at you when you bring it up. The point is they're not educated. I'm sorry, but they're not. You need to take the time that, like Jared and I have done, to do your homework and to do your research and to look at things like shaman resonance and understand what that means, the natural frequencies of the earth and what humans are dialed into. And then understand that anytime we get away from that, we get away from optimum health, we get away from perfection the way God designed us. And that's what makes me mad. It's like I understand technology, I'm not trying to stop it, but I want it to be safe, and it's rolling out so fast that nobody's taking any time to study it. And then the last thing you want to know is you got cancer and you're full of lymphoma and you die, and they find out 10 years later, oh, well, you could have avoided that with maybe an EMF modulator,
Hmm.
you know, or, put these things around your home or carry them in your pocket. To me, it's a simple message, and the products, that are out there that we can offer and the ideas of how we can help you to survive in this invisible environment, I think is very, very critical to you and your family. Thank you for that.
Definitely. Thank you for that. I want to get into, if it's okay with you, some
Yeah,
ways that people can implement some protective ways to minimize EMF, right, at this point.
right. And I think you have a lot of those on your website, don't you?
I do, yeah.
Okay, cool. So just make sure that, listeners can always go to your website. We'll give those addresses out where they can get more information. But to me, it's as simple as, I no longer use the phone next to my face. I do use a speaker phone whenever I can. I'll use a headset or a speaker phone if I can. My headsets are wired, of course. Anyway, it just reduces some of that distance.
Hmm.
But I use something called a tri-field meter. And these, you can buy these on the internet too. These are called tri-field meters. I don't know if you can see that very well, but bottom line, this will measure EMFs and microwaves and stray radiations. I got mine for like 60 bucks. But bottom line, it's nice to walk around your house because you can walk around and it'll pick up where these high amounts of EMFs are. Like it'll show you your microwave, it'll just go like that red line. Or like an electric clock radio in your bedroom is one of the worst things you can have in your bedroom. You'll put that meter, right by that clock radio and it'll just, and it's just red line. And you're like, that's hitting me all night long? And that's going to make you move your appliance, right? So distance matters. One of the biggest things and simplest things in the whole world, and nobody does it, is at midnight, put your Wi-Fi on a timer. Click, goes off at midnight, click, comes out at 6 in the morning. I've told many people that, and they'll say things like, well, then I got to re-sign on all my devices. Wow. Why are you exposing yourself to 8 hours of radiation when you don't need to?
Right.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay, yeah. If you don't take action, it's your own fault. So turn off your wireless device when it's not in use. It's not difficult. Screen protector. You can put a screen protector, like if you're looking at a screen right now, right? That helps reduces the EMRs that are coming out, a different level of radiation. Limit how long you're on these devices. Don't let your grandkids sit and play on, an EMF emitting device for 8 hours just because you want some peace. Go outside and catch butterflies. And then last but not least, in my opinion, I've got lots of them, but these are small but easy to do. Is let's go to the Hedron EMF protection products, right? We've got all kinds of them. There's simple ones that are inexpensive to big ones. I have the egg on my property. I love it. I've got more wildlife than all my neighbors, and they all comment on that. They're like, "Why is there so much wildlife in your backyard?" I was telling you that, Dr. Jared.
Yeah.
And I said, there's only one thing I've changed. I put an EMF, frequency modulator. It's called the egg. And it does, like 40 acres. And it's amazing. I'm telling you the truth. I can't believe it. There's deer and raccoons and lizards and turtles. I live in Florida. There's all kinds of stuff coming in my yard, and nobody else has got that happening. And my wife and I, we just keep saying it's got to be the fact that we're shielded from all of this 5G. and the animals can feel the natural rhythms of the earth and the reptiles, and they want to come in. It's amazing. I'm telling you, they should have one in every zoo. It's incredible. So, how expensive? That was very inexpensive for me to do, you know? So I feel very safe in my home here. I feel very protected. I feel good. I
Great,
don't have headaches. I'm sleeping fine.
great, great. It's good
Anyway,
to hear. Thank
what
you.
ones do you have? I'm sure you've got a mountain of them.
Yeah, I do. I have I can see three from where I'm sitting right now. But yeah, so
You never have enough.
right, right. Uh, yeah,
But your website has all these products,
it
right?
does. It does. It's all laid out at hedronemfprotection.com. But yeah, I mean, the main thing is what people can what can you implement today? And yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in like even Epsom salt baths because the that dissipates the static charge that the body accumulates throughout the day, and you can accumulate that static charge from the EMF, and it destructures the 5G, especially the millimeter waves that destructures the water that we have in our bodies, and we're mostly made up of water, right?
Right.
That has a 108-degree angle water molecule, and when that is destructured or broken, so to speak, between molecule and molecule, that can cause problems because in the microtubules of the cell, it winds around structures that semicrystalline matrix and causes piezoelectric reactions. We're very electric beings to begin with, and when you introduce those man-made signals, that that puts a dimmer switch on our cells' ability to produce energy. And
Right.
yeah, I mean, things like an Epsom salt bath, yeah, that can be very helpful. Um, Things like even optimizing like the settings on the phone, like taking apps off the phone that you're not using anymore, because like I said earlier, it draws data from constantly drawing data from these different companies that are out there that put the apps out. Um, and
Mhm.
then another big one is reducing blue light because that affects the melatonin production in the body. Uh, that I think is important, especially at about 4 p.m. You don't want to be exposed to blue light, and there are several different ways to decrease blue light uh, exposure through certain settings on devices. But yeah, I think
Right.
all of that should be implemented to minimize your exposure as much as possible and create a low EMF environment for yourself and for your family. Um, like you're saying, sleep was a big issue for many people, and yeah, I at one time I had uh, a doctor, I won't name any names, but he didn't he really didn't think that the devices would work. And his daughter was having trouble with sleeping, and she had some headaches and then some retinal strain from being on devices. But he took, we call it the home harmonizer. He took a home harmonizer and slid it under her bed without her knowing. And she slept for an entire, 8 hours. And it
Probably
happened.
sleeping with their cell phone, right?
Oh yeah, right. And
Yeah.
that's the big thing with kids today that they
Yeah.
sleep right with the
Sure.
cell phone, and that's as we've
Electronic teddy bear.
established is yeah, I mean not a good thing. And if you read the fine print in your cell phone manual books, they say, well, keep it an inch away from your body. When does anybody ever keep it an inch away? I mean, it's in the bra, it's in the front pocket of the pants. I mean, we're talking tier two
Yeah.
type symptoms where you're going to have uh, fertility problems and you're going to decrease lymphatic flow and and the 5G is going to essentially cook the microbiome, change the metabolism of those beneficial probiotics in the stomach, leading to a leaky gut and then leading to obesity.
Wow,
And
well said. I'm
so,
impressed.
but
I'm impressed.
all of those factors, even blood sugar dysregulation is a big
Sure,
factor. When the EMF
sure.
levels go up, the blood sugar shoots up, and we're not coming to grips with that as a society, and that I think is why we're here. That's the main thing, is to bring awareness to people and to
Yeah,
say, hey, we got to look at this because we have future generations here. We got to take care of this now.
yeah. Nobody wants to be microwaved 24/7, right?
Right.
Your body is living tissue. It's fluid and tissue, and it's very what I call a crystalline type of structure, if you think about it. Even Dr. Emoto in his work looking at water crystals and how they shape and form these beautiful geometric patterns. And that's what we are. We're dynamic. Our body's going through energetic things, and we're at the mercy of what's happening with our gravity and what's happening with the frequencies that are coming from nature. So what I'm talking about is something called a biofield, right? Again, we can't see this, but it's basically our outside sensory system. And the best analogy I can give you is, you know how it is when somebody comes up to you and they get too close to you,
Hmm.
or they feel like they're in your space.
Right.
They're
Right.
in your biofield and you didn't invite them. So anyway, that's like an antenna, right? That reaches
Yeah.
out. It transmits information about us and it gives us information about someone else. That's how sometimes you meet somebody and go, wow, I really like that person, but I don't know why. Or I kind of dislike that person and I don't know why.
Hmm.
You're picking up on their biofield, right? So that's a normal thing. Animals
Yeah.
use it all the time to identify each other. It's your intuition, it's your awareness. Those are things that we don't talk about when we talk about anatomy, physiology, and biology. But to strengthen your biofield, right, you get better focus, better well-being structurally, anatomically, physically, anti-aging, right? It's your connection to the world. So I'm always about trying to protect that biofield, strengthen that biofield, because that translates right down into the physical and back out. So true health is not just a pile of chemicals or anatomy. We have a mind, we have a soul, we have emotions. Another thing I always tell people is if you're really worried about all these dangers, you got to up the ante with your diet. Eat a lot of things called antioxidants and polyphenols. We got to get these types of nutrients into our body because they offset radiation, like kelp, and just kinds of berries, acai and goji, and we could do this all day. But
Right.
you got to eat more of this stuff, more fruits, more vegetables if you want to survive the onslaught, or do what I do and supplement. But I have something called the Black Guardian. I love that thing. I love the Hedron products. Yeah. What can the average person do? What would you recommend? Just somebody that says, I just want to protect my house. What would be the best thing for me to get?
Well, to protect the house, I would say the home protector, guardian, the smaller one. That would be perfect for protecting the house, or even the home harmonizer, depending on the size of the house, because it will cover 1,000 square feet. So, um,
Wow.
th those
So
are
something about that size?
right, right, right. Yeah.
That's
Um,
amazing that that little disc can change all the frequencies in that much area. That's incredible. How does it do that?
Well, the biggest aspect of it is the minerals that are in it. The minerals have a higher resonance density of Schumann waves, and those Schumann waves are what we need, and that creates more resiliency to the body, more adaptability to living things, even plants, but more importantly, the body in this case, and that helps strengthen that biofield. We have the biophotonic aspect, and that's how I got interested into this is through athletic performance and the biophotons and how those communicate to the cell and what's disrupting that. And that's, EMF waves will actually disrupt that biophoton communication. Bruce Lipton talks about that, and he's got great
Right.
information out there, right? But yeah, that's essentially how I got interested. And then my oldest son, he at the time he was about 3 years old, and we're thinking about sending him to school. And then I was researching, and my wife was researching also the aspects of EMF and athletic performance. And then it dawned on us, hey, wait a second, everybody needs something like this because my son's about to go to school and there's cell phone towers hooked to the side of the school. And
No,
to get those off
I
of the
know.
school is not a possible thing to do.
No.
It's very, very impossible. So, how do we coexist with these electromagnetic frequencies without having to live in a tinfoil bag, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Wow. That's great. No, that's exciting. I'm glad we got to do this. I would even encourage anyone who's listening, if you'd like us to continue this, maybe do a series, let us know. But Dr. Jared and I are very passionate about this concept and this idea of protecting you and your family, because nobody else is going to do it if you don't take some responsibility. And luckily, these products are made, right here in the United States, right? And we can get those through the Hedron website. They're very affordable. There's different sizes. Ones you can put in your pocket, your cell phone, ones you could do your house, ones you could do a whole farm with. So I applaud you, Dr. Jared, and the work that you've done in putting together such excellent products. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here of my own free will. I'm here because I want to help you grow your company, and I love the fact that it's a Wisconsin company. I was born and raised there, so I have an affinity. And the work that you're doing, bless you. Don't stop. You got to keep going because we need your help.
Thank you for that. And I just want to thank you for coming out and sharing all of your incredible information and knowledge that you have. And thank you for all the work that you are doing and have done. I mean, it's incredible looking at, I was taken back looking at how many PhDs you have. Uh,
Yeah,
but
been doing this for a
yeah, well,
while.
yeah, I mean, I just want
I
to,
collect them.
right. That looks accurate. Yeah. But yeah, I guess my closing message here to people is not to fear, but to be looking for ways to coexist with this because I don't think it's going away, but you need to be aware as well.
Mhm. Yeah. And I would echo that. And just please, reach out to us. We would love to get this information out to anyone who will listen because it will save lives.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you, and thank you for everyone joining us today, taking the time out to listen to us, and I hope we can do this again sometime.
I hope so.
All right.
All right. We'll let
Have
it
a
go.
have a great day.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.